marching home again. Hoorah, hoorah.
It's the 1940s and wartime is in the air. So light up your cigarettes, grab your guns, and join the war efforts because Adolf Hitler is trying to take over the world. America, England, Russia, and most of the planet are against you, so look out, Hitler. And don't forget about Japan and the whole Pearl Harbor thing and the war raging in the Pacific. It's a real theater out there, you know. So look out, Japan, because we got Einstein and Madge Blake working on the A-bomb right now. I mean, whoops, you're not supposed to know about that yet. Looks like FDR's gonna have me killed. Goodbye, folks. Go war.
You got off lucky last night, Septon. One more move and you'll wake up with your throat cut. There are two guys in this barracks that know I didn't do it. Me and the guy that did do it. Because if there are gonna be any throats cut in this barracks...
With Christmas time in the year, I found myself thinking of one of my all-time favorite movies. 1953's Stalag 17. It even falls somewhere on my top 10 greatest movies ever made list, if I were to have one, which I do. Of course, not every movie fan would agree with this, since I never see it showing up on any greatest war movies ever made lists. What makes Stalag 17 so great? Now, most people these days have never heard of or even seen the movie Stalag 17. And that's understandable. A movie about a bunch of dudes in a prisoner of war camp isn't going to appeal to all audiences. However, other filmmakers can take a lesson from the writing, directing, editing, acting, and pace of this film. It's perfectly done. Now, I sort of consider myself an expert on the movie Stalag 17. I've seen it repeatedly since I was about 10 years old. Therefore, I know it very well. So let me run you through the tale of Stalag 17. Yes, I do intend on spoiling the ending, and it's a very satisfying ending. That's far more enjoyable when you don't already know what happened. So fairly warned, you've had since 1953 to see this classic. And away we go. The whole movie is being narrated to us by the main character's stooge-like sidekick, a guy they nicknamed Cookie.
What gets me is that there never was a movie about POWs, about prisoners of war.
Probably a cook before he was taken prisoner and placed in Stalag 17 with a bunch of other captured American sergeants. So Cookie's a real suck-up to this main character. Our hero of the film, Sergeant J.J. Sefton, played perfectly by actor William Holden in the role he won the Academy Award for. Anyway, Cookie, being a bit of a weasel, sort of makes it a little hard to believe he was a sergeant in the army. And the same goes for a lot of the other characters in this film, as you'll see.
Let me go! They'll shoot you! Let me go! Let me go! They'll shoot you, animal! I don't care! Let me go!
Anyway, Cookie really looks up to this guy, Sefton, and you can see why. He's cool as shit. He's a main character that really drives this film. We even consider him more of an anti-hero. An every-man for himself type who actually trades with the Germans to make POW life a little more comfortable, but only for himself, of course. Also, to make things more interesting, he had all sorts of rackets going on in Barracks 4. AKA his assigned, shared living quarters. So the film starts right off with a failed escape attempt from two prisoners in Barracks 4 at Stalag 17. By the way, Stalag is the German word for prison camp, just in case you were wondering. They say this in the movie too.
Stalag is the German word for prison camp.
Now everyone's taking this escape attempt very seriously, except for Sefton, who's taking cigarette bets that the two men won't even make it out of the forest alive.
I bet they make it to Friedrichshafen.
I bet they make it all the way to Switzerland.
And I bet they don't get out of the forest.
Now what kind of crack is that?
No crack. Two packs of cigarettes so they don't get out of the forest.
Although disgusted by the fact that Sefton is betting on the lives of his fellow prisoners, the rest of them bet anyway to show confidence in their whole plan here.
I want to back those kids. I'll cover 10 of them.
I'll take 5.
8. Put me down for 10.
I'll cover 3. I'll take 1.
Sadly though, Sefton turns out to be right, and the two men are gunned down right outside the barbed wire fences. It's the next morning that we then meet the Commandant of Stalag 17, played perfectly by actor and director Otto Preminger. And he reminds all the prisoners of what happens if you try to escape, like those two dudes did from last night. We're both lying dead right out there in the mud in front of everybody, too.
Nobody has ever escaped from Stalag 17. Not alive, anyway.
And he's a real cocky dick about the whole thing as well. And Otto Preminger does his character so well. I always remembered this speech, particularly that part where he says, "A white Christmas, just like the ones you used to know."
And I so much hope we could give you a white Christmas, just like the ones you used to know. And those the words that clever little man wrote, you know, the one who stole his name from our capital, that something or other Berlin.
So a lot of the prisoners in our focal point barracks of Barracks 4 are starting to suspect that there's a spy amongst them, informing the Germans under every move and escape plans, since they always do seem to be 2 steps ahead of them.
I just want to know what makes them crowd so smart.
Maybe they do with radar. Maybe they got a mic hidden somewhere.
Maybe there's somebody on our barracks tipping them off, like one of us.
And naturally, they intend on finding out who's tipping them off. Who's the dirty, stinking stoolie, as they put it. Or as Neville Brand puts it.
One of us is a stoolie, a dirty, stinking stoolie.
So of course, suspect number 1 is Sefton, because he is sort of the biggest scrounger of them all. Completely disinterested in escape.
Is that Einstein's theory, or did you figure it out for yourself?
He's more interested in making himself real cozy inside this prisoner of war camp. Like in this scene where he comes into the barracks with a single egg and starts cooking it in front of everyone. And it's a real great scene too, it's one of my favorites actually.
Set her up, Cookie, I'm starved.
I'm all ready.
I can almost smell that egg cooking. You really get a feeling of how scarce the resources were for the prisoners, and how in today's modern society you don't really appreciate something like a single egg, so readily available to us in most supermarkets. So you sort of just take it for granted, this one single egg that everyone envies around him. I mean, here in the U.S., we are really an egg nation, an egg and cheese nation. You don't really appreciate a single egg until you don't have any. And this scene really establishes that well. Because for a prisoner in the 1940s prisoner of war camp, a single egg is really hard to come by. So just seeing one is a real shock and delight, especially when they start cooking it in front of you. Which does raise the immediate question to everyone around him, where the hell does Sefton get this egg? And the obvious answer, which he explains openly to everyone, is that he traded it with the Germans for some cigarettes. The same cigarettes he traded with them that previous night on the lives of the 2 men who failed in that escape attempt.
What was I going to do with them? I only smoke cigars.
Nice guy. The crowd shoot Manfredi and Johnson last night, and the day's out trading with them.
So when some of the prisoners pressed the commandant's second-hand man, a guy named Schultz, into giving them some information on who the hell's tipping them off, who the dirty stinking stoolie is, he just sort of laughs it off, as you naturally would expect him to, as if he would tell them.
Who's tipping you off?
Tipping me off? I don't understand.
However, we as the audience do see him notice the barracks hanging light bulb tied in a loop over a chessboard. Now, once he's alone, again, we as the audience witness Schultz walk up to the chessboard and pick up one of the pieces. That turns out to actually be a fake piece that you can take apart. It has a rolled up message in the center. And then from within his own pocket, Schultz pulls out another chess piece identical to the other one and swaps it on the board with the one he just took. Assuming that that was also a hollowed out piece too. So this verifies to us, the viewer, that the prisoner's suspicions about there being a spy in the barracks is no longer a suspicion, but a fact. Only, who the hell is it? This movie is pretty much a whodunit mystery, where the audience finds out the answers before the characters do. Thus we get to watch how they all figure it out. It's pretty cool, sort of like in a Columbo episode or something. So at this point, the most likely suspect to them would be Sefton, since he has no problem trading with the enemy, and betting on the deaths of fellow prisoners. But you never really get the feeling that it's him, even though the rest of the characters in the movie do. And you can see why. They don't have much to go on. Now, Sefton might be a scrounger and a selfish dick, but I think he sort of like draws the line somewhere around being an informant for the Nazis. But at least he makes life at Stalag 17 fun and even interesting at times.
Sergeant J.J. Sefton.
He held all sorts of events, for his own profit of course. Instead of money, they would trade in cigarettes. It was the 40s after all, and cigarettes were a social norm still. I mean, you were a real outcast if you didn't smoke in those days. Like Sefton, he only smoked cigars. One thing Sefton did is he ran a horse-like racetrack where he raced mice and the prisoners could bet on the winner. He even gave the mice cute little racing names too.
10 on Schnickel, Fritz.
Echo boys.
Snickle Fritz.
Backward, boys. Come on, boys. The horses are at the post. And they're off and running at Stalag 17.
Then there was his own distillery business, selling makeshift booze to the prisoners.
What'd you expect for 2 cigarettes? 8-year-old bottle and bond? All the house guarantees is you don't go glide.
Glide? Hurry! Hurry! Hurry, I'm blind! I'm blind!
And finally, the Sefton Peep Show. Oddly enough, there was a Russian women's prison camp right next door to theirs. And without this factor in the movie, Stalag 17 would be a total sausage fest. So enjoy it while it's there. So Sefton has set up a telescope that he built that looks out one of the barracks windows over at the Russian woman's delousing shack. Now all they could really see was the woman lined up and wrapped up in towels ready to go into the shack and then disrobe. However, for them, that's better than nothing, as long as you have a good imagination, I guess.
After 2 years in that camp, just the idea what was behind that window sure spruced up your bulge.
Like for our comic relief characters, this telescope is just not quite good enough for them. They really want to go over there and get a look inside them windows. And very daringly sneak into the woman's compound posing as painters. Just to try to see some boob. Some Russian boob, too. It doesn't work out for them, however.
Was soll das? Was machen Sie hier? Sie sind verhaftet!
And fortunately for them, as they're running away back to their own camp, they're not shot for this like they probably would have been in real life. So with all these little businesses going on, Sefton is very open with everyone else in the barrack, how he's paying off the Germans in cigarettes to allow him to do this shit. Because naturally, why would they even let him do this shit? Right? It's a prison camp, there are rules.
Crowds find that gadget, they'll throw us all in the pool.
They know about that gadget. I'd worry more about that radio.
Maybe they also know about your distillery and the horse races.
So again, as a viewer, you never really get the feeling that Sefton is the rat. Just that every man for himself kind of guy. And he plays it so well, too. So cool, where it's like, even though he's a selfish dick, he's still really cool. He's still like a badass at the same time. He's just so unfazed by everything.
I grease the crowd guards. I give them 10% of the take.
And maybe a little something else, Sefton.
A little something what?
Maybe a little information. Break it off!
So when a new prisoner, a Lieutenant Dunbar, and his celebrity impersonating at the time buddy...
Now see here, Scarlett. I'm crazy about you and always have been. I gave you kisses for breakfast, kisses for lunch, and kisses for supper. And now I find that you're eating out.
They show up at the camp with this whole story about how Lieutenant Dunbar blew up a German ammunition train.
It's like all the railroad lines out of Frankfurt are fouled up because somebody blew up an ammunition train. Somebody, my eye. The lieutenant did it. Right in the station. 50 German guards around.
So, 1 point America. They brag about it for a bit too to everyone.
Yeah. About 3 minutes later you can hear it. Boom! Understand? Broke every window in Frankfurt. Understand? It was gorgeous. Wait a second. I'm not through. Understand?
Which they do point out is not a smart thing to do in a barracks with a spy in it.
I wouldn't talk about things like that.
They never caught on. They may. That's why I keep my mouth shut.
Why? We're all Americans here, aren't we?
And the crowds have a way of getting information.
However, they're new and they don't know this, and the beans have already been spilled. Wah, wah. But they don't really even know it yet. And neither do we, the viewer, totally. But they have exposed themselves to someone. So what about this time Schultz shows up inquiring about a radio that the prisoners have been hiding in the barracks? Sort of like a local radio they pass around the camp from barracks to barracks so people can listen to the news and what's going on in the war news. So the prisoners deny having this radio, of course, and Schultz uncovers it on his own anyway. Like very easily, too. Almost too easily. Now this suggests that the message on the chess piece was probably all about this radio and its whereabouts. Not what the prisoners think, though. They're still on board with the idea that it was Sefton, of course.
I don't know, I told you.
What did the crowds trade him for the radio?
I don't know.
And that same day, one of the prisoners discovers that Sefton's made it over to the Russian woman's compound and living himself a real swell time. With the Russian woman, of course. He's not just jerking up behind a tree, looking into windows, like the other two comic relief guys are going to do.
Take a look for yourself. It'll curdle your guts.
The Russian women.
And the prisoners get to look through the telescope and see all of this, but we, as a viewer, do not. We just get to imagine what this must look like. Just picture Sefton laying back having his cigar with two half-naked Russian women in his arms, I guess. When he asked the prisoner how Sefton got the hell over there so easily, he explains that Sefton just walked right past the gate like he was one of the friggin' Nazis himself, waved and everything, and went right in and just had himself a good old time. They let him in, pretty much.
Now we know what he got for the radio.
He got absolutely no trouble from the Germans. Now this convinces the prisoners even more that Sefton is the rat, of course.
This is murder.
Of course, Sefton denies all this upon his return when they have a little Sefton intervention. But this little intervention is cut short when the Commandant himself shows up. So you know it must be important.
Achtung, Herr Kommandant!
He then proceeds to arrest Lieutenant Dunbar and pull him right out of the barracks for his connection in the bombing of the ammunitions train. Once they leave the barracks with Dunbar, the intervention then goes right into a ritual beating of Sefton, who they're all convinced told the Germans about Dunbar being the one who blew up the train. Since they mentioned it to absolutely no one until they hit Barracks 4 at Stalag 17. Well shit, this isn't looking good for our Mr. Sefton. Now is it? And still, I know Sefton's no angel, but I'm still not convinced he did it. He's a trader in products and merchandise, not aiding the Nazis' war efforts and selling out his own people. But after this beating that Sefton knows he didn't deserve, he becomes a very determined man and goes on a quest to uncover the real spy who left him standing there holding the stick. You go, boy! He still remains a cool guy through all of this, if not a scruffy-looking nerf herder, and very secure with his innocence. He even gives them all the business.
Now you listen to me. There are two guys in this barrack said, no, I didn't do it. Me and the guy that did do it. Because if there are going to be any throats cut in this barrack...
Now it's Holden's acting in scenes like this that probably earned him the Academy Award, because he does pull it off quite well. So then it's about this time that we get a little visit from the assigned Geneva Convention man. And for those of you unaware, the Geneva Convention was an organization meant to make sure that prisoners of war were being taken care of properly. Are the Nazis taking good care of you?
Beans up with hand. Would you like to taste it? Where's the hand-heart? There should be a hand-heart.
When you find it, we'll send it to Geneva.
And it's one of the more humorous scenes when all the prisoners pretend not to mind prison life when clearly they don't want to be there.
That's what the Geneva Convention is for. To protect the rights of prisoners of war. Whether they are Americans or Germans. What have you got to say?
I like it here.
So then the barracks chief, a guy named Hoffy, takes this opportunity to tell the Geneva Convention guy about how they took Lieutenant Dunbar out of here with no real evidence at all of whether he bombed this ammunitions train or not. I mean, the guy does have rights, right? You can't just take a guy out and shoot him, as he says.
You can't just take a man out and shoot him.
And it's about this time that we cut to this funny and memorable boot scene. So while depriving Lieutenant Dunbar of sleep to pry information out of him about the train bombing, the Commandant goes to all this trouble to have his German shit kickers put on, just so he can click them together. While he's on the phone talking to this German official in Berlin.
Sonst haben das gefangenen Mann den Munitionszug in Frankfurt in die Luft gesprengt hat.
You know, just so the guy can hear the clicks over the phone, I guess, to know that he's wearing the German shit kickers, which I guess he normally doesn't actually wear or want to wear. But does all this just so he can make this phone call to Berlin, click them together, only to immediately take them off after the phone call is done. Because, you know, he wants to tell this guy in Berlin that he's captured the guy who blew up that ammunitions train. It's gonna make him look real good. I mean, you wouldn't want that guy on the other end of the phone to not hear those clicks. I mean, he might not believe that you're actually a German official. I don't know. He might not take you seriously, right? Probably be brought up in charges and shot for not having those boots on. A real dedicated Nazi looking for a promotion. It's right about then that the Geneva man pops in and points out to the commandant that you need to prove that Lieutenant Dunbar used a time bomb to blow up this train. He also then proceeds to remind him that when the war is over, there would be trials for war crimes such as this. Seeing the Geneva man's point, the commandant assures him that he will get the necessary proof.
Very well. If you insist on details, I have ways of finding out about that blasted time bomb.
Suggesting that he's going to use the local spy to get the information that he needs. Wink wink, nudge nudge, you know what I mean? The chess piece, you know, that whole thing. So then there's a barracks Christmas party. It's a nice little celebration and everyone's having a great time. Now this is a great scene, probably my favorite in the whole film. It's when they reveal to us, the audience again, who the real barracks spy is. That's when we see Peter Graves' character, Price, the barracks security officer, as he notices the loop in the hanging light bulb's cord. So as a viewer, and the viewer alone, this puts Sefton right in the clear. We know who the spy is now, unbeknownst to all the other barracks inmates. Ah, Peter Graves, you sly son of a bitch. He's the spy. He then proceeds to just casually stroll on over and swap chess pieces, just like Schultz did. And right next to Sefton, too, who's getting blamed for all this. A real daring move, too. He then steps aside to read the message, which is probably asking him to get proof that Lieutenant Dunbar used a time bomb to blow that train up. So you really suddenly hate this security guy Price now, as he all slick-like pulls down the loop in the cord, returning it to normal, and then just blending back in with everyone else. Partying away like he's one of the group. Only he's not at all. He's getting them killed. Great scene. I never get sick of it. But again, that's just me. I love how only we, the audience, know all this. The scene wouldn't work otherwise. Well, you just want to punch Peter Graves right in the face at this point. Because you know how everyone thinks it's Sefton when it's really not. He's just letting it all happen. But this scene only gets better with this awesomeness. As Sefton notices the shadow cast by the now swaying light. Now he's probably been laying in that bed for hours now, recovering from that beating he took, and staying clear of all of his fellow prisoners who now hate him. He's probably been staring right at that never-changing shadow of the looped cord. And now he sees it swaying and it's not even looped anymore. Oh, I just love it. It keeps getting better. Now, Sefton has his first piece of evidence, and it has something to do with that light. A scene well done, it's great. So now that we, the audience, know that Price is the real spy, it only gets more tense. As you're rooting for Sefton now to uncover this guy Price soon. As we then see him pressing Lieutenant Dunbar's celebrity impersonating buddy for information. Information on how he made a time bomb and he used it to blow up a train. And unaware that Price is actually the spy, he gives him the information he needs. His own buddy just gave the Nazis the proof they need to shoot Dunbar for sabotage.
Hey, that's a ringer.
Shit. I hope Sefton's a real good Sherlock friggin' Holmes at this point, or that Lieutenant Dunbar guy is friggin' dead. So as the Christmas celebrations go on, Sefton notices there's a loop in the cord again. Oh, not long after that, there's an air raid that forces all the prisoners out of the barracks to take cover. However, this is just a stunt to allow Schultz and Price a chance to talk in person. That's when we see that Price even speaks German. Oh, another interesting detail. Now, thinking they're alone, he shows Schultz exactly how Lieutenant Dunbar made a fuse for his time bomb, thus giving the Germans the proof they need to try and more than likely execute Lieutenant Dunbar for this. So, Dunbar's fucked, right? Or is he? Happy with this information, Schultz says, Achtung! Schultz and Price then leave the barracks together, happy as clams, as we do a nice slick pan over to a dark corner of the barracks, where Sefton emerges, all cool and badass. Now he knows that Price is the real spy. Things are about to get real heated now, and fast. And it's here that Sefton is at his almighty coolest when he mimics Schultz with his very own Achtung. That's right, folks. He just saw and heard everything. So we get back to the Christmas celebrations after the false air raid, where we get to see men dancing with other men. A pretty controversial thing to show on screen in those days, actually. But it's a prisoner of war camp. Who the hell is he going to dance with, you know? The woman at the Russian compound where you're not allowed to go? Animal, the comic relief, then has a nervous breakdown, but it's okay because it's, you know, comical.
Harry Shapiro!
Then we get another bit from the celebrity impersonator guy. He's not bad either.
You look like Cary Grant. You want to dance with me?
No, I'd love to, Queenie, but well, one of the other girls asked me first. Bye, darling. Bye.
And then back to Sefton, who with this newfound information just sort of stares down Price, trying to figure out what the hell to do with this information. Who do you tell? And as he discusses it with Cookie, Cookie suggests that he tells security, of course, that being Price, our real spy. Wah wah, yeah. Tell him, right?
You want to tell me? Why don't you tell Hoppy or security?
Yeah. Security.
I am not a chess player usually. Bear with me there. Shit. How about King me? Does that make sense? Well, alright. I'll take my piece back then, alright? Put it over here for now, like. Shit. What the hell? Check that shit up there. Hey, this thing's hollowed out. And message inside it. Hey, there's a piece of paper in here. What the hell is this shit? What in the hell? We're on to something here, Bear. We are on to something here. What does this say? Alright, the message, Bear. Check this out. Dear Schultze, just so you know, Bo has a tunnel under one of the doghouses. Newkirk's breaking into the Colonel's safe. Carter has an underground science lab. And Kinch has a radio. In a coffee pot? The hell? Someone's informing the Nazis what we're doing in here. Shit, Bear. Hey, everybody. Check this shit out. Hey, Farmer Spaghetti's talking here. Listen to me, I got the note. One of us is spy. Found out how they're doing it. Guys. Shit. You idiots don't listen, do they? Just some background character to you all, huh? Well, screw you all then, fine. Let the Nazis get you all killed. I don't care. Farmer Spaghetti don't give a shit. I'll just be even cooler than Sefton. I'll just sit here and play checkers chess with a bear. Right? Fuck it. Your move, Bear. So Sefton has deducted that Price is not just a spy, but a German as well. Planted in those barracks by the Germans themselves to pose as an American POW to get information out of them, and then pass it on to his comrades. The enemy, the Nazis, the Germans, running the camp. Clever and elaborate, but it makes sense though. It is a good way to get intel on what these guys are doing behind closed doors, by posing as one of them. Then breaking news comes in from the at ease guy.
At ease! Alright, at ease! Next.
He just got word that the Germans now have the necessary evidence against Lieutenant Dunbar, and plan on shipping him off to Berlin for a trial and more than likely an execution. So, with this news, the barracks chief Hoffy quickly arranges a plan to rescue Lieutenant Dunbar from the Germans before they ship him off to Berlin. The prisoners do this by creating a large smoke cloud that they create from ping pong balls as they're escorting Lieutenant Dunbar from the Commandant's office, and snatch him right away from the Germans and then stash him somewhere. Only where? I mean, the camp's only so big and there's only so many places they could have hidden him in a matter of seconds. However, the Germans have a real hard time locating him, and it drives them nuts.
It sure drove the crowds crazy looking for him.
They tear the whole camp apart looking for this guy, but he's nowhere to be found. And as a viewer, you're just as confused. You're like, seriously, where is this guy?
The crowd searched under the barracks, they searched the roofs, they even searched the bathroom in the commandant's office. But no Dunbar.
He can only play hide and seek for so long before he's eventually discovered, even if he did find a really good hiding spot. That's when they do this nice, I'm guessing, crane shot, as we pull back and reveal Dunbar hiding in the camp's water tower. Nice spot. Still, someone's bound to think of it eventually. Plus, he can't stay up there forever, so they need to act fast. It's Christmas, it's cold outside. Even more so when you've been standing in water for hours on end. So now, it's come down to, what now? Obviously, he can't just sit out the rest of the war in the water tower. And the Germans aren't completely stupid, so they will find him eventually. The prisoners then devise a plan to break Lieutenant Dunbar out of the camp that night. I mean, they don't really have a choice, really. So that night, when Barracks Chief Hoppy has everyone draw straws to decide who's going to take Lieutenant Dunbar out of the camp, Price, our security officer, volunteers himself.
Suppose we call this my tag. I'll take him out.
Of course, right? And we know, just like Sefton knows, that Price has no intention of breaking Lieutenant Dunbar out of the camp. He's volunteering so he can prevent this whole thing from happening by turning Dunbar in. However, still unaware that Price is the real spy, they agree to let him go. Since he does point out that this whole time it was his job as security, and considering how things have been turning out, he's really sort of been, well, sucking at his job, hasn't he?
You guys elected me security. The way things have been going in this barracks, I guess I've done a poor job.
Which does raise the one question that I did have after seeing this movie multiple times. Why did they never suspect him immediately? He is security. He should have picked up on something if he was attempting to be security in any way. Seems like the most likely suspect before Sefton. Maybe too obvious, you know? Maybe that's why he chose that position. He knew he could stay hidden.
Better cut out in back of the south latrine.
Why the south latrine?
Because that's where he is, in the water tank.
So anyway, that's when Sefton steps in and makes his move with oh so perfect timing.
Two packs of cigarettes say Dunbar never gets out of the compound.
Just adding to his slick coolness.
Are you starting that again? Anybody cover? Somebody step on that crumb. We warned you, Sefton. Sure you warned me. You were gonna slit the throat of that stoolie. Here's the knife to do it with. Only make sure you got the right throat.
Now this is another great scene. Sefton exposes Price. It's all been building up to this moment, and you really want to see Sefton finally get this dick. So that he can get what he deserves, so the rest of the prisoners can see that he wasn't a stoolie after all. And that they were all wrong. So like an in-your-face to everyone, really. He's still Sefton after all. Very self-absorbed. But boy, Sefton is so confident when he does it too. Such a badass.
Are we going to stand around here and listen to him until the Germans find out where Dunbar is?
The Germans know where Dunbar is. How do they know? You told them, Hoppy. You did. You did. Are you off your rocker? Uh-huh. Fell right on my head. Because you're kaput, Price.
Will you get this guy out of my hair so I can go?
Go where? To the commandant's office and tell him where Dunbar is?
And he really puts everyone in their place. Especially Price.
I'll kill you for that. I'll kill you for that. I'll kill you for that. Shut up. Security officer, huh? Always screening everybody. Only who screens you?
This one scene is the product of perfect writing, directing, and acting, all combined together. In my opinion, of course.
Okay, Herr Preishofer. Let's have the mailbox. The one you took out from the corner of your bunk and put in this pocket. Let me show you how they did it. They did it by mail.
Mail?
That's right. Little love notes between our security officer and von Scherbach. With Schultz, the mailman. Here's the flag. They used to put a loop in the cord. You ever notice? And here's the mailbox. Hollow black queen.
Now exposed and knowing he's completely fucked, Price makes a vain escape attempt for the barracks trapdoor, but is tackled down by nearly everyone in sight. So, with the odds now finally in his favor, because Sefton is such a dedicated gambling man.
Brother, were we all wet about you? Forget it.
Sefton himself agrees to break Dunbar out of the camp.
I look pretty stupid in this, yodeling my way across the Alps.
In the hopes of receiving some sort of cash reward from Dunbar's rich old mother back in the States. I mean, maybe deep down Sefton really did care, but was just a little too afraid to show his emotions, being the type of guy he was.
If I ever run into any of you bums on a street corner, just let's pretend we never met before.
But anyway, they use Price as a diversion as Sefton makes his escape by tossing him right out into the compound, all nice and loud like, drawing every gun in the camp on him. Jingle bells, Peter Graves smells, psh, psh, psh. Otto Preminger laden egg. So thinking he's Dunbar making a break for it, they gun his ass down immediately. Bam, 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 bam. As Price begged for his life in German, Dick Neeson, Dick Neeson! Aw, they can't hear him over the gunfire. Ain't justice nice and violent? Believing they killed Dunbar, the Germans' victory is short-lived when they see who they really killed. Not so cool now, Otto Preminger. Get it? You would, Mr. Freeze. One of many. So while all of that is going on, Sefton is able to pull Lieutenant Dunbar out of the water tower and successfully break his ass out of the camp using wire cutters.
This is it. Let's blow, Chauncey. Let's.
Yay! And back in barracks 4, Hoffy orders everyone else to go back to bed and act as if nothing happened at all. Just another night at Stalag 17.
Alright, man, everybody back in their bunks. Like nothing happened.
Our comic relief then squeezes in one last joke.
I'd like to know what made him do it.
Maybe he just wanted to steal our wire cutters. You ever think of that?
Before we whistle out, Johnny comes marching home. And that's the end of the movie.
You guys never gonna believe this shit. Leonard Maltin and I finally fucking agreed on something. Get this movie, Stalag 17, he gives it 4 stars. Can you believe that shit? Usually that guy and I are on completely different pages. For once, we're on the same page, guys. Fine, damn you all, don't listen to me. Shit. Ignoring Farmer Spaghetti. Like I'm not even here. Fine. I ain't ever helping any of you escape. None of you.
Bravo, bravo, fucking a lesson in excellent filmmaking. Thank you, Billy Wilder. Great movie, great cast, great performances, great writing, great directing, great everything all around. Nearly a perfect movie in my opinion anyway. Which leads me into my final thoughts of the masterpiece that is 1953's Stalag 17. Now, this movie features a huge cast of very talented character actors, all of them which are dead now. Yup, every single one. The last of which being most recently Richard Erdman, who played Barracks Chief Hoffy. Yeah, he made it the longest, died in his 90s only a few years ago. The biggest actor on this list being William Holden, some of the others being Peter Graves, Neville Brand, the highly underrated Neville Brand, Otto Preminger, Harvey Lembeck, Robert Strauss,
Don Taylor as Lieutenant Dunbar,
and many, many more. Those are just some of the highlights. When I was just a young child, my father had us watch this movie one night on TV, and I knew then somehow that this movie was special to me. I liked its ability to move right along and always keep you interested and entertained, even at that age. It kept you wanting to know who the spy was. Then once you knew, all you wanted to do was see Sefton succeed at successfully exposing Price for being the real spy. Now this was all well written for the screen by the great Billy Wilder, who also directed William Holden's Sunset Boulevard a few years earlier. The film William Holden personally believed that he deserved the Academy Award for Best Actor for it, even though he ended up winning for Stalag 17. I thought he was great in both movies, but I disagree with William Holden, thinking the performance was better in Sunset Boulevard as opposed to his cool character of Sefton in Stalag 17.
And William Holden actually sort of technically reprised the role of J.J. Sefton in 1979, where he did a cameo appearance in a movie called Escape to Athena. It's one of those don't blink or you'll miss it type cameos, so I'll show it real quick.
Are you still here? It's not a bad life. Got a match?
Now the screenplay for this movie was adapted from the stage play of the same name. And you can easily see this movie being a play. I mean, it all entirely pretty much takes place inside or around Barracks 4 at Stalag 17. So they never really leave that spot too much. This is how I think a lot of the performances from the supporting cast were done so. Billy Wilder cast a lot of the ones who had been playing it originally on stage for the last few years, so they knew their roles and characters quite well already. Even the playwright himself of Stalag 17 had a small role in the film. He was the I believe it guy.
I believe it. I believe it. You believe what? My wife. She says, darling, you won't believe it, but I found the most adorable baby on our doorstep, and I've decided to keep it for our very own. Now, you won't believe it, but it's got exactly my eyes and nose. Why does she keep saying I don't believe it? I believe it. I believe it. I believe it.
I believe it. I believe it. He was that guy. And he based it on his experiences in World War II, having been a prisoner in a prisoner of war camp. So there's a lot of realism there. Now another thing I enjoyed about it was how contained it was, like the fact that it was a play and it was all in this one little room. It's very claustrophobic. It makes you really feel like you're in there and you're a part of it and you're one of these guys. Like you were right there in Barracks 4 at Stalag 17. Just an observer, some background prisoner, watching all this go down. Now Billy Wilder, the director, was quoted as to once saying, as regarding to filmmaking, to not bore your audience. Good piece of advice, even though it's not always easy to do that. Not always easy, but Billy Wilder was nearly a master at it. Again, in my opinion. To me, it also shows in his other films. And with this movie, he manages to blend humor and drama, sort of like MASH did years later. The humor and the horrors of war, which brings me to Hogan's Heroes, which this movie has often been compared to, and you can sort of see why. Hogan's Heroes was a 60s sitcom comedy about POWs in a German POW camp during World War II. Only this was a straight-out wacky comedy, never meant to be taken seriously. They freely left and returned to the prison camp so they could act as spies from within the prison camp. And all the Nazis in the show and in the camp were bumbling idiots, completely unaware of what was going on. Now the biggest similarity that I saw was that they both have a character named Schultz, who's the second-hand man in charge to the guy running the camp. And they even have a similar look. Only Stalag 17 Schultz actually does his job. None of this turning a blind eye to the obvious illegal shit going on around you, and just shrugging it off with a funny catchphrase. I see nothing, nothing.
I know nothing, nothing.
And one last thing before I go, I wanted to mention how this movie, Stalag 17, could also be considered a Christmas movie. Since the bulk of this movie does take place right around Christmas time, there's even a Christmas party in the movie, and Christmas music. So if Die Hard can be a Christmas movie, then Stalag 17 can definitely be a Christmas movie. Well, that's it for now. Hope all you and your loved ones had a Merry Christmas. Give Stalag 17 a watch sometime. It's a great film that stands the test of time. Easy watch, it's easy to follow, it's thoroughly entertaining the whole way. Adios for now. See you at the movies.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hoorah, hoorah.
I believe it. I believe it.
Hey, coming up. Ron Sherbach, right?
In Berlin, they have forgotten that Colonel von Scherbach even exists.
Hi, Farmer Spaghetti, one of your prisoners, can I come in? Cool, right? You like what I have to say? No, trust me, just give me a minute of your time, and Farmer Spaghetti is gonna have something for you that you're gonna love. Alright? Just 1 minute, just a couple minutes, just seriously, it won't take long. See, before the war, Farmer Spaghetti used to be sort of a salesman, door-to-door salesman kind of thing. Anyway, I brought along something I think you'll be interested in coming up. I think we can be friends, you and I. You see, I heard about that little escape. I was in the barracks, had nothing to do with it. Don't blame Farmer Spaghetti. Those assholes never listen to me. Alright? They do what the hell they want. Alright? I ain't trying to escape. I like it here. Seriously. I really, seriously like it here. Sort of like, we can be pals, right? You and I can be friends. Allow me to be like your Colonel Hogan to his Colonel Clinton, right? Right? It's gonna be great. You're gonna love this shit. Alright, here we go. Farmer Spaghetti has some awesome stuff in there. Alright? It's gonna be great, man. Alright. This whole thing, chessboard, great fucking idea, but everybody knows about it, right? So you can't do that shit anymore. That was awesome, by the way. The little chess piece that was hollowed out, I love that shit. That was cool. But you can't do that anymore. They know about that. But Farmer Spaghetti has a little thing he wants to call the Nazi Spy Board Game Editions, alright? You're gonna love this shit. Just listen up, hear me out, you're gonna love it. Original Star Trek Monopoly. Right? Looks like original Star Trek Monopoly game. Only, these little Deep Space Nines are actually microphones. They can hear everything. Everything that's going on in there. It's awesome. You'll love it. Great. Right? Pretty cool. And if you don't like that, hold on. There's more. But wait, there's more. Right? I told you, Farmer Spaghetti salesman. He has more than one thing in his little bag of goodies. Next, my favorite, Mousetrap. Remember this shit? This was one of the greatest games ever. Still is. Now, got all sorts of pieces. Remember that shit? There. Remember that? Old man in a swimming suit, ready to do a backflip into a pool? Phew. Yeah, right? His head pops off. Look at that, no head. And now inside of his head, shove a message in there if you really want. Cool, right? Plus, it's still a regular mousetrap game. You can still enjoy playing mousetrap. It's awesome. I love this game, by the way. Greatest game ever. Alright, enough of that. And next, but you didn't even know this existed, the Water World board game. Right? It's real. It's a real board game. Only this one's special. It's the Nazi Spy Edition Water World board game. Right? I know you like Water World came out in 1995. And it's supposed to be the 40s. Who cares? Stop thinking too hard. Now, in this one, the 3 dice are also hollowed out. Yeah. Every single one of them. One of them's a microphone. It's the earpiece. You can talk to them like a phone. It's pretty cool. James Bond shit. I'm like Q. I'll be your Q. How do you like that? Shit. And finally, remember this fucking game? Jenga, right? Jenga pieces. Only one of these pieces, and honestly, Farmer Spaghetti forgot which one, is hollowed out. And another one of them is a phone. And this one is a radio. This one you can eat if you get hungry. It's a chocolate bar inside of it. There's all sorts of things. They're all special in some way. All spy related shit. One of them's a cyanide pill too. If you want to kill yourself, so try not to eat the wrong one. Don't get it confused with the candy bar one. I don't know if they have these in Germany. Maybe it was invented there. Farmers being too fucking bright. You don't know where things came from. There we go. So, what do you think of that shit? All pretty cool. You could fool so many of these idiots, they wouldn't even know. They'd be like, oh, Jenga, cool, and they just play it, wouldn't even know what's going on. You could blow their whole place out. You put a bomb in here, they wouldn't even know it. They're dumb. Oh, and by the way, it's not related to board games, but are you interested, by the way, maybe Turbo Man? Everybody wants one of these for Christmas, right? I had to fight and kill Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad to get this thing, alright? No? No, not into it? Now, you don't look like you like that one. Anyway, if you want me to leave? Alright, you don't look too happy. I tried, Farmer Spaghetti tried. You know what? I'll just leave all this shit here. You do what you want with it. You're gonna kill me, aren't you? Don't have me killed. Farmer Spaghetti's going. He's leaving. Bye. Sorry.
Berlin? General von Pfeffinger?